The basic foundation for planning and zoning in the United States was established by the U.S. Department of Commerce in the 1920s. For many states, the Standard Acts, as they are known, still supply the institutional structure. The Standard State Zoning Enabling Act was developed by an advisory committee on zoning appointed by Secretary of Commerce and later President Herbert Hoover in 1921. The first printed edition appeared in May 1924 and a revised edition in 1926. The Act had 9 sections. It included a grant of power to the states, a provision that the legislative body could divide the local government's territories into districts, a statement of purpose for the zoning regulations, and procedures for establishing and amending the zoning ordinance. A city or county has no power to zone or regulate unless given such power by the state legislature. If the municipal zoning ordinance in your jurisdiction has not been authorized by a state enabling legislation, it could be declared ultra vires and therefore null and void. A zoning ordinance, to be successful, should be consistent and uniform. The International Zoning Code, published by the International Code Council, is designed to meet this need through model code regulations that safeguard the public health and safety in all communities, large and small. This comprehensive zoning code establishes minimum regulations for zoning ordinances. Become familiar with the required text. There will be information provided at the end of this module for utilizing the reference text in preparation for the ICC exam. So in your ICC book, you're going to find under the purpose the following statement. It says the purpose of this code is to safeguard the health, property, and public welfare by controlling the design, location, use, or occupancy of all buildings and structures through the regulated and orderly development of land use within this jurisdiction. Again, each of these codes have to be adopted and amended by the local jurisdictions, and they require action by a legislative process. Each state has its own means and methods of doing this. So your state may vary from the state I'm in, which is South Carolina. But this is the basic purpose that you're going to be asked about if you take the ICC exam, and this is specifically listed in the scope language of the ICC zoning code. Regulating land use within districts can benefit the public in many ways. Zoning is important from other standpoints as well. Property taxes make up a large portion of municipal revenues. Effective zoning can help maintain property values, thus providing the money to finance present and future community services. Zoning is the legal instrument most municipalities use to implement their comprehensive plans. Zoning also encourages community growth. Zoning ordinances do not have control over certain matters. In some or all municipalities, the zoning ordinance has no control over materials and methods of construction. This is the domain of the building code. Street design or placement of utilities. School sites, recreational sites, and right-of-ways. These are controlled by subdivision regulations, the state, or other jurisdictions. Certain undesirable uses, and more specifically, zoning classifications cannot be used for exclusionary purposes. In other words, a community cannot use a zoning ordinance to prohibit a legal use of property in order to insulate itself from the undesirable effects of that use. Zoning ordinances are not retroactive. Therefore, they must include provisions for uses that existed prior to the zoning ordinance adoption. Two ways that a zoning ordinance adjusts for possible inequities are non-conforming uses and variances. We will discuss variances later in this program. A non-conforming use is not in compliance with the zoning ordinance because the use existed before the zoning ordinance was in effect. Non-conforming use provisions generally prohibit the following: enlarging or expanding the non-conforming use, rebuilding the non-conforming use if more than a certain portion is destroyed, resuming the use after it has been abandoned for a period of time, changing the use to a higher classification or to another non-conforming use. Some ordinances also state the non-conforming use must be phased out over a certain period of time. Chapter 1 of the International Zoning Code addresses moved and temporary buildings, structures, and uses. Permits are required. Temporary buildings or structures shall be completely removed upon the expiration of the time limit stated in the permit. Chapter 1 of the International Zoning Code establishes the duties and powers of the code official. These duties and powers include reviewing zoning applications, issuing permits, issuing certificates of occupancy, appointing the secretary to the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, keeping and maintaining records, assisting the Planning Commission, and providing interpretations to the public and other authorities. So let's see how we're doing with a brief quiz. Non-conforming uses shall A. be removed within 180 days, B. not be permitted, C. not be expanded, or D. require approval from the local legislative body. A zoning map must show the A. variances, B. district boundaries, C. non-conforming uses, D. building height limitations. Okay, we went through this introduction pretty quick. The next video is going to be a little more lengthy. We encourage you to go through each one. None of them take too long, and they cover quite a lot of information, and I think it's going to be very helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments, please submit those either in the comment section here or to my personal email as listed below that you see. We ask that you please support and like this work, and we rely solely upon you. And if you have any other information or that you want to share, we would appreciate you doing that. So let's continue, and we'll move on to the next video here in just a moment. Okay, you've done a good job. You've been all the way through this session. There's still a few more to go. If this is not the last one, and I'd appreciate it if you would like, share, and subscribe to this page. This is how we're able to provide this free of charge to folks. So we wish you the very best. And if there's anything we can do for you, please contact me at the link you're going to find, or not link, but the email address you're going to find in the description. We ask you, again, like and subscribe, and maybe buy me a cup of coffee. Thank you.